Welcome to the Quotive Corner. Today's quote comes from one of the most celebrated novels ever written, and it was delivered not by the book's hero, not by a philosopher making an argument, but by a monk speaking quietly to a woman who was struggling with her faith. That context matters enormously, because what he says to her is uncomfortable, and it was meant to be. Love in action is a harsh and dreadful thing compared with love in dreams. That's Fyodor Dostoevsky from The Brothers Karamazov, published in 1880, widely regarded as one of the greatest novels in the history of literature and Dostoevsky's masterwork. The line is spoken by Father Zosima, a revered elder monk, to a wealthy woman named Madame Holikov, who has come to him in spiritual crisis. She loves the idea of serving humanity. She dreams of sacrificing herself for others, but she confesses, honestly, that she is terrified that if the people she helped were ungrateful, she would stop loving them entirely. Zosima doesn't reassure her. He validates her fear and then delivers this observation. The full passage Dostoevsky gives Zosima is worth hearing in full, so here it is. Love in action is a harsh and dreadful thing compared with love in dreams. Love in dreams is greedy for immediate action, rapidly performed and in the sight of all. Men will even give their lives if only the ordeal does not last long but is soon over, with all looking on and applauding as though on stage. But active love is labor and fortitude, and for some people too, perhaps, a complete science. Let's look at that last sentence. Active love is labor and fortitude, and for some people too, perhaps, a complete science. That's where the quote lives. And it's one of the most honest things ever written about the gap between what we imagine love to be and what it actually requires. So, what is Dostoevsky, through Zosima, actually saying? Love in dreams has a specific character that's worth examining before we get to the harder version. It is grand. It is immediate. It performs well. The person who dreams of love imagines the dramatic gesture, the sacrifice witnessed and applauded, the moment of heroic giving that is over quickly and leaves everyone, including the giver, feeling elevated. Zosima's observation about giving your life as long as the ordeal doesn't last too long and is soon over is not sarcasm. It is a genuine psychological description of how the romantic imagination approaches love. We can envision dying for someone far more easily than we can envision showing up for them, undramatically, for the 10,000th consecutive Tuesday. Active love is the opposite of that. It is not witnessed. It is not applauded. It does not end quickly. It does not produce the immediate emotional payoff of the imagined grand gesture. It is the kind of love that Madame Holikov is afraid of. The kind that keeps going even when the recipient is ungrateful, difficult, or unchanged by your effort. The kind that is sustained not by emotional return, but by commitment that runs deeper than the feeling of the moment. Dostoevsky knew this personally. He spent 4 years in a Siberian prison camp after a staged mock execution that left him standing blindfolded before a firing squad, waiting for bullets that never came. He lived among murderers and thieves. He watched people break and people survive. And what he observed, over and over, was that the capacity to love, genuinely, actively, without guarantee of return, was not the product of sentimental feeling. It was the product of will, of choice, of what he called fortitude. Dorothy Day, the American Catholic activist and co-founder of the Catholic worker movement, quoted this passage from Zosima repeatedly throughout her life. She ran soup kitchens and hospitality houses for the destitute, the addicted, the mentally ill, and the chronically ungrateful. She knew firsthand what active love looked like on its worst days. She found in Dostoevsky's words not discouragement but clarification, an honest naming of what the work actually was, which made it possible to keep doing it without being destroyed by the gap between the dream and the reality. That clarification is the gift of the quote. It doesn't tell you love is impossible or not worth pursuing. It tells you what you're actually signing up for when you commit to loving anyone in a sustained way. A spouse, a child, a parent, a community, a calling. Not the feeling of love, which comes and goes. The practice of it, which requires something the feeling alone cannot provide. This connects to what Rick Warren observed in a prior episode, that true humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. Love in action requires exactly that reorientation, across time and without the reward of being seen doing it. The person who needs their love to be witnessed, acknowledged, and returned in kind has built their practice on a foundation that cannot hold when circumstances become difficult. The person who has understood Zosima's lesson, that active love is labor, not performance, has built on something more durable. There is also something worth naming about the relationship between faith and active love in Dostoevsky's framing. Zosima is speaking to a woman who is struggling to believe, who wants proof of God's existence and cannot find it through reason. And his instruction is not to seek the proof through argument or evidence, but through action. Strive to love your neighbor actively and indefatigably, he tells her. In as far as you advance in love, you will grow surer of the reality of God. The faith does not produce the love. The love, practiced actively and over time, produces the faith. Now, let's look at the honest counterpoint, because it's important to consider it. Active love as a standard can be weaponized against people who are in genuinely harmful or depleting situations. The person being emotionally abused, who is told that real love is harsh and dreadful and they should keep giving without return. That is a distortion of Zosima's instruction. Dostoevsky was not arguing for the indefinite endurance of harm in the name of love. He was describing the texture of love freely chosen, not love extracted under coercion. Fortitude in the face of genuine difficulty is not the same as tolerance of genuine damage. That distinction matters enormously and needs to be named. Within that limit, however, the observation holds for virtually every meaningful relationship and commitment in a human life. The love that lasts is not the love that feels easiest. It is the love that shows up on the days when it doesn't feel like anything at all, when the drama has long since passed, and what remains is simply the next thing that needs to be done for someone you have chosen. That, Dostoevsky is telling us through Zosima, is the real thing. And it is worth wanting. Thanks for spending a few minutes here at the Quotive Corner. If this one made you think about a love in your life that has been more labor than dream lately, and whether that's something to be troubled by or something to be honored, that's worth some genuine reflection. And always consider this: wisdom isn't in the quote, it's in the reflection. See you soon in the next episode.